Hi everyone, Christine here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, A Dash of Soy, the channel for home cooks that want to learn more about Chinese cooking and culture. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Chinese style meatloaf. If you want weekly recipes, go on to my website at adashofsoy.com for more. Hi everyone, Christine here. Today I'm going to show you a classic Chinese recipe, which is steamed meatloaf, or yolk in Chinese. Every Chinese kid has grown up eating some form of yolk. It's very versatile. You can put a bunch of different ingredients in it to customize it to however you want. But in order to make a very good meatloaf, you need to make sure that meatloaf is moist. That means the pork is just so nicely coated in the sauce but moist and not dried out. I'm going to show you the tips to making this meatloaf nice and tender. For this recipe, you're going to need some shrimp sauce, 1 pound of ground pork, some cornstarch, white pepper, oil, some water, an egg, and some shiitake mushrooms. I can't wait to show you this recipe. Let's get started. Okay, so I have my meatloaf, my ground pork, already in my mixing bowl. It's really simple to make. You simply just add everything in there. But there's a reason for each of the ingredients, right? So the cornstarch is actually very helpful with tenderizing the ground pork. That's what the cornstarch is actually used for. And also all these ingredients is for flavor, but also to keep that meatloaf nice and moist. So the oil does that purpose too, smooths everything out. A little bit of that white pepper for that heat, just a little bit. And then water is also what keeps it moist, okay? And most importantly, I like the shrimp paste for this kind of flavor. And the great thing about shrimp sauce is that you can actually use it for a lot of things. A lot of Thai food or Malaysian food uses shrimp sauce, so it's not something that you keep in your refrigerator and you won't use it again. You can actually use it for a lot of different dishes. And for this one in particular, I love that shrimp sauce flavor. It has that nice seafood flavor that it can add to the dish. This is the saltiness, there's the savoriness that I like to add to this ground pork. I'm gonna pour some of this delicious shrimp sauce in. And I like adding some shiitake mushrooms to my dish because it has that nice mushroomy flavor and also has a little bite. And shiitake mushrooms is actually used for Chinese or Japanese cuisines, and it's dried, and you can buy them at Chinese stores or even Japanese supermarkets. And all you have to do is just rehydrate the mushrooms. They're dried, so you just have to soak it in warm water for 30 minutes. That way it rehydrates again, and once it's softened, then you can just chop it up and use it. So obviously dried shiitake mushrooms have a great shelf life. It lasts really long in your pantry. It won't go bad. It's a great way to add shiitake mushrooms to your dish. Okay, so I'm just mixing everything together right now. Last but not least, I added my egg in, and that will complete the dish. I also cured an raw egg with soy sauce in the refrigerator, and a lot of people actually like to put that nice raw egg on top. That just adds to the silkiness and the smoothness of the meatloaf. So I have 1 egg cracked in here to make it smooth already, and I have 1 cured one inside the fridge. I'm just using the egg white also just to add that smoothness, moisture to my meatloaf to make sure it's all nice and smooth. Everything is just make sure it's nice and smooth basically. And depending on how thick your meatloaf is, it would affect your steam time. So I use 1 pound of meatloaf, and I typically steam for about 8 to 10 minutes. It depends on how thick your meatloaf is. So actually for this meatloaf recipe, you can use it on Claypot rice too. You can just cook the rice a little bit first, and then you can put that meatloaf on top and put the lid. I'm actually gonna work on that recipe soon too, making a nice meatloaf Claypot rice recipe. So everything starts blending together, really nice and smooth. And once the shiitake mushrooms is really blended in with your ground pork, then you can plate it and get your steamer ready. So I actually have my nice steamer plate right here. And you want to make sure when you put your mixture in the plate that it's nice and even. It's not like lopsided or lumpy, because that would obviously affect your cook times. You don't want one side to be more cooked and the other side not really, okay? So make sure it's nice and flat, your mixture. Okay, so I evenly use this part of the spoon to just lightly go across the meatloaf and flatten it and make sure it's even on all sides. Okay. And it really depends on how much mixture you have. I think I have about an inch of mixture. So if you're not completely sure, 1 inch thick of meatloaf. So if you're not completely sure, I think to be safe, you can just steam it for 8 minutes and kind of check on it to see if it's ready. It really depends on how thick your mixture is sometimes, or how big your plate. If your plate is obviously wider and there's a thinner mixture, then it'll cook faster. Don't overcook your meatloaf though. When you overcook it, it becomes dry and then it doesn't taste as good. So you want to attain that nice moist ground pork texture when you bite into it, and then the juices just kind of like come out, because when it gets dried out, then it's just like hard. You know, you want that soft texture of meatloaf when you eat it with your bowl of rice. Okay, so I'm getting my steamer warmed up and it's all flat and ready to go. Okay, my water is boiling now. I'm gonna put my meatloaf in to steam for about 8 minutes. I have my heat on medium heat. It doesn't have to be on very high heat. Yeah, medium heat is perfect. I'm just gonna wait and check it when it's ready. Okay, so it's been 8 minutes. Checking on my meatloaf. I have a spoon right here that I like to use to press the meatloaf. And it's kind of solid, you know, you can feel the texture. It's a little solid, then that means it's cooked. If it's still kind of like soft from the back of your spoon, then that means you might need to steam it for a little bit longer. But mine's really solid, so it's cooked. I don't want it to cook anymore and get too dry, so I'm gonna take it out. Looks good. Okay, I actually have the cured egg that I like to put on top, so it looks prettier and also adds to that silkiness. But if curing that raw egg is not really what you like, then you can just take out the egg. You don't need it. You can just garnish it with some green onions and that would be fine too. So I'm ready to take out my meatloaf. Ooh. And this meatloaf, this 1 pound meatloaf can feed a family of like 3 to 4 comfortably. It's a very hearty dish if you really don't know what to make. It's really easy to make and it's hearty. Okay, I'm ready to try my meatloaf now. So there's a lot of juiciness in this meatloaf. And I just broke it apart and you see that? Oh, so juicy. The meatloaf is really soft and moist, which is what I'm trying to go for. I want that moist meatloaf, not dried out. So all of those components just comes into play. The cornstarch, the water, and the egg just makes everything so silky and moist. It's really good. And I have that mushrooms in there, so it has that nice little bite. Most importantly, it is not dried out. See that? It's like perfectly moist. I need my bowl of rice right now. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next video. Bye!